January. The forest is silent in the way only winter forests are. Snow clings to the lower branches of spruce and pine, bending them toward the frozen ground. The air is sharp enough to sting the lungs. Every breath has to be measured. Every movement is calculated. Somewhere beneath the thin crust of snow, a man lies pressed against the forest floor, his body carved into the shape of the land itself. He does not build a nest. He does not climb a tree. He does not rise above the ground. He disappears into it. From a distance of less than 100 meters, German infantry move through the trees in loose formation. Boots crunch. Rifles sway. Their silhouettes break the white rhythm of the forest. They are alert, but not alarmed. They believe they know where a sniper should be. They are wrong. 2 hours from now, 18 of them will be dead. There will be no dramatic charges, no shouted orders, no warning shots. Only brief, isolated cracks in the air, spaced far enough apart to sound accidental, almost natural. And when it is over, the method used here will force commanders to confront a question they had already answered once, and gotten disastrously wrong by the winter of 1941-1942. The war in Northern and Eastern Europe had slowed into something colder, quieter, and far more lethal. The great armored thrusts that defined the opening months of the invasion had given way to fixed lines carved through forests, swamps, and frozen ground. On the Eastern Front, distance mattered less than patience. Visibility mattered more than speed. This was a war of attrition, fought under trees. In the north, where snow arrived early and stayed late, the conflict known as the Continuation War had settled into long static fronts. Finnish forces, aligned with Germany but operating under their own command structure, faced Soviet formations dug into dense woodland terrain. Further south, German units of the Wehrmacht encountered similar conditions against the Red Army. In both theaters, forests erased the advantages of numbers and machinery. Tanks struggled. Artillery was blunted. Aircraft saw little beneath the canopy. What remained was infantry, and infantry bled slowly. The forest was not merely terrain. It was cover, concealment, and confusion all at once. Sightlines rarely extended beyond 50 to 100 meters. Sound behaved unpredictably, muffled by snow or amplified by frozen branches. A single rifle shot could echo in the wrong direction, or not echo at all. Men learned to distrust their senses. Military doctrine, however, lagged behind reality. In the interwar years and early phases of the conflict, most European armies taught snipers to seek elevation, tree stands, hillsides, ruins. The logic was simple. Height granted visibility. Command of ground, an easier target acquisition. Manuals emphasized nests built into trees or shallow hides scraped into embankments. The sniper, it was believed, should observe from above. The forest winter invalidated those assumptions. Snow revealed disturbance instantly. A nest in a tree required movement. Broken branches, exposed bark. Any elevated position created a silhouette against the pale background. Worse still, the cold punished stillness. Blood pooled, muscles stiffened. A man perched above ground lost heat faster than one pressed against it, yet command structures resisted. Change, unconventional concealment, especially ground level, hiding directly in the snow, was often discouraged or outright prohibited. Officers feared accidental friendly fire. They worried about soldiers freezing in place. They worried about men becoming unobservable to their own units. A sniper who could not be seen by his comrades could not be easily recovered. Doctrine favored control over adaptation. This tension mattered, because by late 1941, sniper warfare was no longer peripheral, it was central. Casualty reports across the front showed a disproportionate number of losses from unseen rifle fire. Patrols hesitated, supply runners delayed, junior officers were picked off while trying to orient their men. The psychological impact exceeded the physical damage. German field reports complained of invisible marksmen. Soviet accounts described hunters who struck without pattern. Finnish units, fighting in terrain they knew intimately, understood that survival depended on becoming part of the forest itself. Still, official guidance changed slowly. Snipers were rare assets, expensive to train and politically sensitive to lose. Commanders wanted them alive, visible on maps, accountable to orders. Allowing them to vanish into the forest floor felt like surrendering control, even if it promised results. Against this backdrop, a single soldier prepared to break with instruction. Not loudly, not definitely, quietly. He would lower himself beneath the snow line. He would lie where doctrine said he should not. And in doing so, he would expose a fatal mismatch between how the war was being taught and how it was actually being fought. That realization begins with the man himself. The man who lay closest to the ground was not unique in talent. He was unique in restraint. He came from a system that valued obedience over improvisation. Within the Red Army, sniper training emphasized marksmanship, patience, and ideological discipline. By 1941, the Soviet Union had begun expanding sniper programs rapidly, reacting to catastrophic early losses. Thousands of soldiers were rushed through accelerated courses. Some would become legends, most would not. What they shared was limitation. Equipment was basic. Bolt-action rifles dominated, reliable, rugged, slow. Optics were scarce and fragile in winter conditions. Many snipers operated without scopes at all, relying on iron sights to avoid glare, reflection, and mechanical failure. Ammunition was rationed. Each shot was counted. Each miss carried consequences. Doctrine filled the gaps where equipment could not. Manuals stressed discipline in concealment. But concealment, as defined by regulation, positions were to be known, lines of fire mapped, engagements authorized. Snipers were not hunters. They were tools within a controlled system. Their job was to harass, delay, and demoralize, not to improvise freely. This mattered in forests. Forest combat dissolved clean lines. Patrols drifted. Units overlapped. The difference between enemy movement and friendly movement could collapse into seconds. Officers feared the idea of a sniper completely invisible, even to his own side. A man hidden beneath snow, unobservable at a glance, challenged command, confidence. So the forest floor became taboo. Lying flat in the snow was discouraged. Digging shallow depressions was sometimes permitted, but only under supervision. Complete ground-level hides, especially those that erased a human outline, were viewed as dangerous. If something went wrong, recovery would be impossible. If communications failed, the sniper might be lost. But the soldier in question understood something the manuals did. Not. Cold travels upward. A body pressed into earth, and snow loses heat more slowly than one elevated above it. Breath disperses differently close to the ground. Sound behaves differently. Most importantly, the human eye does not expect threat from below knee level in wooded terrain. Training conditions, perception. Men look where they are taught danger exists. German infantry were taught to scan tree lines. They were taught to look up. By late 1941, German patrols on the Eastern Front moved with confidence, born of experience. They had adapted quickly to ambush tactics. They spread out. They avoided obvious trails. They halted frequently, but their counter-sniper instincts were shaped by encounters with elevated fire. This created a blind zone. At ground level, beneath fallen needles and compacted snow, movement could be nearly invisible. A rifle barrel packed with snow produced no telltale vapor when fired if prepared correctly. Iron sights avoided reflection. Shots fired from ground level were harder to trace acoustically. The cost was physical. A sniper lying prone for hours in sub-zero temperatures risked numbness, loss of circulation, and death. Fingers stiffened. My eyelids froze. Even minor repositioning could betray a presence. The margin for error narrowed to nothing. Commanders knew this. That is why they forbade it. The man on the forest floor accepted the risk anyway. He was not reckless. He selected his ground carefully. A slight depression where snow naturally accumulated. Broken branches arranged as they had fallen. No unnatural symmetry. He packed snow into his mouth before firing to prevent vapor. He measured distances in advance, memorizing landmarks. That would not change. He waited for movement patterns to repeat. This was not disobedience for its own sake. It was an adaptation under pressure. Reports from the front showed rising casualties during routine patrols. German units were becoming aggressive again. Holding ground required disrupting their confidence. When the opportunity came, a patrol route reused too often, a time window too predictable, he moved before anyone could stop him. And once he settled into the forest floor, doctrine no longer mattered. Only time did. That time would compress into 2 hours and reshape how commanders viewed invisibility itself. The angles of that moment reveal why at ground level, the war felt different. There was no horizon, no sky, only bark, snow, and shadow. The sniper's world narrowed to a shallow cone of vision, framed by frozen roots and dead needles. Time stretched unnaturally. Minutes became indistinguishable from hours. Pain was constant, not sharp, but dull and spreading. Fingers lost sensation first. Toes followed. The body demanded movement, and discipline refused it. This was not heroism. It was endurance. Breathing had to slow to avoid visible vapor. Blinking had to be deliberate to prevent frost from forming on lashes. Even swallowing was controlled. The rifle rested on packed snow, stabilized by the earth itself. Recoil traveled downward, not outward, absorbed by ground rather than air. The man became an extension of terrain. Tactically, the position was devastating. German patrol doctrine relied on visual scanning and bounding movement. Men advanced in loose files, halting to observe likely sniper positions, tree trunks, ridgelines, elevated ground. Officers gestured upward when directing attention. Machine gunners set their fields of fire above waist height. The forest floor was considered cluttered, not threatening. From below, the sniper exploited this assumption. Targets appeared full-bodied, boots, calves, knees, then torsos. At close range, iron sights were sufficient. No scope meant no glint. No elevation meant no silhouette. Each shot came from a direction that could not be easily triangulated. Sound reflected unpredictably off snowbanks and trunks, making the origin seem distant or displaced. After the first kill, the patrol halted. After the second, they spread. After the third, confusion set in. They searched trees. They searched for shadows at eye level. They fired into trunks. Nothing answered back. Technologically, simplicity won. The rifle, a bolt-action service weapon, functioned reliably in the Cold War. Semi-automatic systems often failed. Fewer moving parts meant fewer malfunctions. Iron sights avoided fogging. Ammunition warmed against the body before loading, reducing the risk of misfire. Every element favored patience over volume. The sniper fired slowly, never twice in quick succession, never from the same micro-dash angle. Snow packed into the muzzle dispersed harmlessly on firing. No plume, no flash. The forest absorbed the report. German soldiers, trained to identify muzzle blast and smoke, found neither dot from the enemy's perspective. The forest turned hostile. Within minutes, the patrol's confidence eroded. Men dropped prone, then rose again, unsure which posture increased survival. Orders became hesitant. Movement slowed, exactly what the sniper needed. Each pause created another window. Each attempt to locate the shooter exposed another silhouette. This was not a slaughter. It was unraveling by the end of the first hour. The patrol no longer advanced. They bled time, morale, and cohesion. Reinforcements hesitated to enter a kill zone they could not define. The forest, once neutral ground, became an active participant. Above all, the engagement revealed something commanders feared to admit. The enemy was not where doctrine said he should be. And if one man could do this from the forest floor, then the manuals were dangerously incomplete. That realization would not stay confined to this patrol or this front dot. It would travel upward, into command rooms and after-action reports, where control and effectiveness collided. Those consequences emerge most clearly when leadership and morality are brought into focus. Armies function on visibility. Orders flow downward. Reports flow upward. Commanders trust what they can see, measure, and retrieve. A sniper who disappeared into the forest floor disrupted that system. He could not be checked ice. He could not be repositioned quickly. If wounded, he might never be found. If killed, there would be no body, no confirmation, no closure. This is why the method has been banned. Not because it was ineffective, but because it removed certainty. Field officers preferred imperfect results. They could manage over perfect results. They could not fully oversee. A sniper in a tree could be pointed to on a map. A sniper buried into snow could not. In the rigid hierarchies of wartime command, that distinction mattered. But after the engagement, certainty collapsed anyway. Reports arrived describing a patrol neutralized without visible enemy presence. Timestamps showed a sustained engagement window far longer than a single ambush. Casualty numbers did not match known enemy positions. German counter-sniper fire had failed completely. The forest itself seemed to have fired back. Commanders were forced to ask questions they had avoided. If doctrine forbade this position, why had it worked so completely? If the risk was unacceptable, why had the outcome been so decisive? The answers were uncomfortable. Morally, sniper warfare already existed in a gray zone. Unlike artillery or bombing, sniping was personal. One man observed another. He chose the moment. He watched the result. Many officers viewed this with suspicion, even distaste. It felt unsoldierly to some, too individual, too quiet, too detached from formation combat. Ground-level concealment deepened that discomfort. The sniper was not merely hidden, he was erased. To the enemy, death arrived without a visible source. Two friendly forces. The act left no trace until afterward. This challenged traditional notions of bravery, recognition, and accountability. Yet the war no longer rewarded tradition. Static fronts punished predictability. Forests punished height. Winter punished exposure. What mattered was survival and effect, not appearance. The engagement demonstrated that moral discomfort did not negate tactical reality. Leadership responses reflected this tension. No public commendations followed immediately. No sweeping doctrine changes were announced. Instead, there were quiet adjustments. Informal permissions. Wording softened in training notes. Situational discretion replaced prohibition. Commanders allowed what they would not officially endorse. This was how adaptation often occurred. Silently for the sniper himself. The moral burden remained individual. There was no cheering, no confirmation beyond after-action tallies. He lay in the cold, counting shots, watching men fall who never knew where death came from. The silence afterward was not relief. It was empty. That, too, was part of the cost. But war does not pause for reflection. The forest engagement would soon be dissected not as an ethical question, but as a turning point, a moment when results forced acceptance. The next phase was not analysis, but replication. Others would attempt the same method. Some would fail, some would die. But this first engagement stood apart, because it happened all at once. 2 hours, 18 men, no warning. The moment when everything changed did not announce itself loudly. It arrived with a single shot, and then another. The first shot came without urgency. It was late morning. The light had flattened, diffused by cloud and snow. Sound carried poorly. A German patrol entered the forest on a route they had used before. Not carelessly, but confidently. Their spacing was correct. Their weapons were ready. Nothing suggested danger. The rifle cracked once. The man at the front dropped immediately. No shout, no warning. He collapsed into the snow, as if pulled downward. The patrol froze. Seconds passed. Men crouched. Rifles rose. Eyes searched the trees. Nothing moved. The second shot followed nearly a minute later. A soldier near the center of the formation folded sideways, his helmet rolling free. Now there was noise. Shouted warnings. Boots shifting. Weapons cycling. A machine gunner dropped to a knee and aimed upward, sweeping the tree line. The forest answered with silence. From the ground, the sniper watched them reorient incorrectly. Every reaction confirmed his position was invisible. He adjusted his breathing, waited for motion to repeat. Selected men who paused too long, who turned their heads, who exposed themselves trying to see. Each shot was deliberate. He never fired twice from the same micro-angle. He shifted centimeters at a time, pressing deeper into the snow, redistributing weight so no impression formed. The cold no longer mattered. Sensation had already left his fingers. Only function remained. Within 20 minutes, the patrol stopped moving forward entirely. German doctrine dictated withdrawal under uncertain sniper fire, but hesitation crept in. To retreat meant exposing backs. To advance meant entering an undefined threat zone. Orders conflicted. Men lay prone, then rose, then lay prone again. The sniper waited. He understood timing better than they did. Panic accelerated enemy movement. Fear created mistakes. A raised head, a kneeling silhouette. A runner was sent to flank through underbrush. Each mistake ended the same way. By the end of the first hour, casualties had mounted beyond expectation. What should have been a brief contact had turned into a drawn-out paralysis. Reinforcements did not immediately enter the forest. No one could explain where the fire was coming from. From the forest floor, the sniper counted carefully. Not kills. Shots. Every round expended narrowed his margin. Ammunition was finite. Endurance was finite. He knew this could not continue indefinitely. The engagement would end one of two ways, either discovery or exhaustion. But before either arrived, the forest would take its toll, because the patrol had not yet understood the most dangerous truth. They were not being hunted from above. They were being erased from below. The second hour would make that undeniable. The second hour began with silence. Not the calm kind, but the strained quiet that follows confusion. The German patrol no longer advanced. Survivors huddled behind trees, fallen logs, shallow depressions that offered psychological comfort more than real protection. No one could identify the threat. No one could name a direction. That was when the sniper resumed. The shots came slower now. Farther apart, each one chose to reset fear just as it began to settle. A man attempting to crawl backward, another standing to signal, a third moving instinctively toward what he believed was cover. Each movement ended. Abruptly. German countermeasures intensified, but blindly. Rifles fired into branches. Grenades were thrown toward suspected tree trunks. Machine gun bursts, chewed bark at chest height. None of it reached the ground where the sniper lay motionless, pressed so flat that even his breath no longer disturbed the snow. What made discovery impossible was not invisibility alone, it was expectation. The men searched where they believed danger lived. By the 90-minute mark, the patrol was effectively neutralized. Survivors either lay wounded, unmoving, or pinned in place by the fear of exposing themselves. Attempts to withdraw failed. The forest offered no safe direction. Sound no longer helped them. Every crack of a branch triggered panic. The sniper's discipline never faltered. He did not fire at wounded men who posed no threat. He did not waste ammunition on bodies already. He targeted only movement, only intent, only those who might escape to warn others. When the 18th man fell, the forest changed, not visibly, not immediately, but something broke. The remaining Germans stopped trying to solve the problem. They stopped scanning, stopped firing. Those still able began crawling away, inch by inch, abandoning weapons, helmets, even wounded comrades. Survival replaced cohesion. The sniper did not pursue. His ammunition was nearly gone. His body was numb beyond pain. The risk of exposure now outweighed further effect. He waited until the forest emptied, then waited longer still, long enough for certainty. Only then did he withdraw, slowly, deliberately, leaving nothing behind. When friendly forces later secured the area, they found no nest, no tree position, no firing platform, only tracks where men had fallen, 18 of them scattered through the snow as if claimed individually by the forest itself. The after-action reports struggled for language. No enemy sniper position located, no elevation identified. Engagement duration, approximately 2 hours. Enemy casualties, 18 confirmed. And somewhere in the margins, an unspoken realization took root. The ban had not failed. The assumption behind it had. That realization would not remain theoretical for long. It would reshape training, permissions, and expectations, quietly, as such changes always did. Because once a method proves itself under fire, it does not disappear, it spreads, and its consequences follow. When friendly units advanced through the area later that day, the scene offered no clarity, only outcome. Bodies lay at irregular intervals, some face down, some half buried by drifting snow. Rifles rested where they had been dropped. Helmets lay several meters from the men who wore them. There was no central point of contact, no obvious direction of fire. Officers walked the ground slowly. They searched trees first, then embankments, then rises in the terrain. Nothing explained the pattern. Only when someone knelt, when they lowered their perspective to the level of the fallen, did the truth begin to surface. The fire had come from below. The immediate tactical impact was undeniable. A patrol-sized German element had been rendered. Combat ineffective without artillery, without supporting fire, without maneuver. It happened inside a narrow time window. It had cost almost nothing in friendly resources. The implications were difficult to ignore, but acknowledgement came cautiously. Official reports remained conservative in language. They avoided naming the method directly. Phrases like exceptional concealment and unorthodox positioning replaced specifics. Commanders understood the value of the result, but they also understood precedent. Endorsing the technique openly would mean responsibility for its risks. So change began informally. Sniper instructors stopped dismissing ground-level concealment outright. Instead, they spoke in hypotheticals. In certain terrain, under specific conditions, field commanders began granting quiet permission, not orders, but tolerance. If a sniper chose to lie lower than doctrine allowed, there would be no punishment if results followed. The ban dissolved without being repealed. On the German side, the impact was immediate and psychological. Patrols altered routes. Movement slowed. Men avoided open forest sections, even when maps suggested safety. More time was spent scanning the ground, time that reduced momentum and increased vulnerability elsewhere. Reports referenced an enemy who could not be located, an area that resisted control, a forest that punished presence. None of this appeared dramatic on a map. Lines did not shift. Cities did not fall. But at the tactical level, fear began to shape behavior. And fear, once introduced, rarely confines itself to one engagement. For the sniper himself, there was no ceremony. He was checked for frostbite. His weapon was cleaned. His ammunition count was noted. The confirmation of 18 enemy dead was recorded clinically. There was no celebration, no speech. The war did not allow for it. But among those who read the report carefully, something fundamental had changed. They no longer asked whether the forest floor was acceptable. They asked when it should be used. That question would echo beyond this sector, carried by rumor, training notes, and cautious imitation. The wider consequences of that shift would take longer to appear, but when they did, they reshaped how invisibility itself was understood on the battlefield. Those consequences extend beyond one forest, they extend into how wars would be fought. From that moment on, it appeared in conversations between instructors, in the margins of training manuals, in quiet briefings before patrols moved out, not as a story meant to inspire, but as a problem meant to be understood. The forest floor sniper was no longer an anomaly. He was a variable. On the Eastern Front, adaptation traveled faster than paperwork. Sniper training began to emphasize terrain fusion over position dominance. Recruits were taught to think in layers, not just above ground, but within it. Snow was no longer treated as a hazard alone, but as material, something that could absorb sound, erase shape, and distort expectation. The forest floor became a legitimate dimension of combat space. German responses followed a parallel path. Patrol doctrine shifted incrementally, spacing widened further, advanced speeds slowed. More men were assigned to watch the ground, though this divided attention and weakened awareness elsewhere. Counter-sniper teams were deployed more frequently, but with limited success. A threat that did not announce its presence was difficult to hunt. Technology offered little immediate relief. Thermal detection did not exist. Aerial observation was useless beneath the canopy. Artillery could saturate an area, but only at the cost of time and ammunition, and often without effect against a single prone figure. The balance favored the invisible. Psychologically, the impact endured longer than the bodies in the snow. Survivors spoke of uncertainty rather than fear. They described forests that felt occupied even when empty. Movement became a negotiation rather than an action. Every step required justification. Momentum suffered. Initiative dulled. This was the real aftermath. The 18 dead. But the thousands who moved differently afterward. For commanders, the lesson cut deeper. Control did not always produce security. Visibility did not always equal safety. A soldier they could not see had proven more effective than one positioned exactly where doctrine demanded. The forest floor sniper represented a truth warfare. Repeatedly reveals and repeatedly forgets. Adaptation often comes from below. By the end of the war, ground-level concealment was no longer banned. It was taught, refined, incorporated into sniper manuals across multiple armies. What had once been viewed as reckless became recognized as essential under certain conditions. The man who lay beneath the snow did not write those manuals. He did not attend conferences. He did not argue theory. He simply proved something under fire. And when wars end, proof is what remains. The forest floor would never again be considered empty space. It had claimed its place in military thinking, quietly, without ceremony, the same way it had claimed 18 men in 2 hours. What that moment ultimately meant extends beyond doctrine and training. It reaches into how modern warfare understands patience, restraint, and the unseen. That meaning becomes clear only when the noise of battle fades, only when reflection replaces urgency. Snow melted, needles fell, new growth erased the impressions left by boots and bodies. Nothing in the landscape marked what had happened there. No monument, no trench, no grave that explained the silence. And yet, something endured. The engagement did not matter because of numbers alone. 18 men, in a war that consumed millions, barely registered on the scale of loss. It mattered because it exposed a fault line between control and reality, between how wars are planned and how they are actually survived. A single soldier, lying where doctrine said he should not, demonstrated that invisibility could outweigh firepower, that patience could dominate movement, that the ground beneath one's feet was not merely something to stand on, but something to become. This was not a triumph of individual genius. It was a lesson in adaptation. The forest did not favor one side ideologically. It favored those who listened to it, those who understood its rules, those willing to disappear rather than dominate. Modern warfare would learn this lesson repeatedly in jungles, deserts, cities. Every time terrain punished assumption, every time the unseen dictated outcome, the forest floor sniper left no speeches, no philosophy, no legacy written in his own words. His contribution existed only in effect, in altered patrol routes, rewritten training notes, and the quiet acceptance that doctrine must bend or break. In the end, that is how most truths in war emerge. Not through argument, not through authority, but through survival. And somewhere beneath the trees, long after the shots faded, The forest kept its secret, not because it was hidden, but because it had always been there, waiting to be understood.